Hello everybody. It's a very strange day. Why is it a strange day? Because you know as well as I know that when I stand here, it means that some absolute nugget piece of turd is about to be pushed through that door. It is a classic Mighty Car Mods moment, but today something different is happening because a car has just arrived from Japan and it actually works. Crazy, I know. We are so excited, everybody, because it's a car that we absolutely love. It's been on a ship, it drove on, can you hear that? And ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce to the Mighty Car Mods garage all the way from Japan to Australia, the Superturbos arrived! Woo!
Welcome to a special episode of Mighty Car Mods. It's the Nissan March Super Turbo from Turbos and Temples 2.
This is probably one of the most iconic, mad, little nuggety cars ever to come out of Japan.
Yep.
I bought this completely sight unseen as a gift for Marty because many years ago he owned one. If you haven't seen Turbos and Temples 2 yet on the YouTubes or on Discovery Channel, check it out. The car is here. Before we dive in, because we're going through this car today, we're adding some mods, we're servicing it, we're taking it for a drive. Before we do, to celebrate this car's arrival in Japan, we have got a limited edition, and we're going to be signing these individually. Good. Limited edition poster that celebrates the Super Turbo coming to Australia. This was drawn by a Mighty Car Mods fan called Destiny, and we've got these all designed up. When these are gone, they will be gone. We are never doing this design again. So if you want to grab one of these, grab one.
Love it.
Once they're gone, they're gone. Limited edition. We will sign it for you. We'll send it to you anywhere in the world. We stuck this one in a frame. They look excellent. There it is. Get on it. Martin, what are we doing today? Please tell me we're just going through the whole car.
This is a really exciting day for me because we picked this up in Japan, and like a lot of trips, you have a limited amount of time before you got to go home again. And so, you know, we had to just get it working on the side of the road as best we could so that we could complete our road trip. And it did. It exceeded all my expectations of just how awesome it would go, like cruising up the highway, racing GTRs, doing all that kind of mad stuff.
200 k's an hour.
No worries.
It went 200 k on a track.
Yeah.
We went 200 kilometres an hour in this car.
It felt like going 80 k's an hour. It was
amazing.
Incredible. But so what is amazing about this, and it's, you know, we buy stuff sight unseen all the time, and often we fail, more often than not, I would say. And this is the opposite.
True.
This is just someone's loved it, looked after it. It's in reasonably original condition with some nice tasteful mods like the wheels.
The paint's delicious.
Someone has painted it, but again, the job is as good as I could have done myself, possibly better, and it's perfect for the kind of car that this is, considering how old it is as well.
Yeah.
So this has now been brought to Australia. For a long time, you couldn't bring these in. Now, my old March Super Turbo was a bit special because someone had brought it in through a quick loophole.
A little window loophole of time.
There was a window of time where people didn't realise you could bring in this particular model of car, and it just the market got smashed with GTRs and cars like this and all sorts of quirky, weird stuff. That window shut, and since then, it was never going to be able to happen again. Then they changed the rules to a 25-year rule, similar to what the United States have. And this is exactly 25 years old. So it's one of the first cars to qualify for that scheme, which means it can be registered on the road. So it's not registered yet because there's this heap of loopholes and hoops to jump through to get it registered. But before we even do that, we need to go through it, look at it, check what it's got, what it doesn't have, what complies with Australian standards, what doesn't, service it, check it out closely in our own shed.
Yeah, which is pretty cool because we bought this car in 2018, and at that point in time we couldn't actually bring it back. So we've been waiting, we've been watching the clock. So it's been in storage over in Japan. A massive thank you to Rob from Import Monster, who's been storing this for us and helping us get it here. Why is the car so special for new players? It's a 1 litre supercharged and turbocharged Nissan. This is rare. It's exciting, it's incredible. It's now here in Australia, all the way from Japan, and today we're going to go through the car, we're going to service it, we're going to add some mods, and then we're taking it for a drive. So as you can see, there's a lot of writing on the car that happens when you're bringing a car out of Japan. This one here says Portu Kembra, which means Port Kembla here, which is where it arrives into Australia. But we thought maybe what would be a cool thing to do is actually go through some of the process of how you get a car out of Japan. Martin, take it away.
So it varies where you live, but generally you need to deregister or tell Japan that that car is no longer in Japan, no longer belongs to someone in there and it's being exported. It's important for them to know, just like it's important for your country that you live to know that you're bringing a car in so they can take your money. So what's most important that you need is you need import approval. So in our case, It's this bit of paper here that says, hey, you've got an import approval and your decision number is this, and it's subject to the following. Now, this is important because it's actually illegal to import stuff without the approval to do so. And especially to register on the road. So this is the first step in order to get this thing registered on the road. That's a long process which we're going to have to work through. We can't do it in a day or we'd take you with us. I'm going to have to figure out exactly how that happens. But basically, to get this done, you need someone in Japan, Import Monster, in our case, Rob, who helped us out, to do all the stuff on that side, to deregister it, go through all the paperwork that they throw at you, and jump through the hoops. And then it gets rolled onto a boat, roll on, roll off in this case, so a giant, like they bring new cars out. And then once it's in Australia, you also have to get it from the docks, which also requires paperwork and approvals and all that kind of stuff.
And
so,
tax.
And tax. That's important. So
and that tax, I think, is usually equated based on what they call the freight on board cost in Japan, which is basically how much did it cost for you to get the car, get it deregistered, towed, which all have associated costs in yen, and then on the boat. And once it's on the boat, that's a FOB price, is my understanding. And that's the price that I think they base a lot of taxes on once it gets here.
So that's the duty that you pay. And then you've also got to pay our local GST, goods and services tax, on the car as well. And so Import Monster on this end then goes through and helps that process through. Now, you can do this side of it yourself. If you're really good at bureaucratic stuff, then you can do that yourself, or you can get an agent to do it for you. And
I would highly recommend you get someone to do it for you from personal experience, because after my Sylvia got burnt in the bushfires, I brought in a 180SX in, and there was just a guy who's just like, I can bring him in, I can help, and he and I did it together. An absolute nightmare. And I mean, look, it's some people who know what they're doing maybe can do it, but if you're just like going, hey, I want to go and get a car from Japan, I highly recommend you get someone to help you with it, because the paperwork is ridiculous. And
this is also a new process for this particular age of vehicle, as I spoke about before. So that's the process to get it here. Costs, I don't have them in front of me, but I can tell you it's roughly $5,000. That includes all the fees in Japan. That includes that person actually driving onto a boat. That includes the people that are on the boat to ship it to Australia.
Which is a couple of grand, the shipping.
Yeah, it is. That includes unloading it here. That includes all the fees that are involved with the docks. Everything that comes to the dock, there's a fee attached to. You know, for example, with this, if you're a day late picking your car up, it's like hundreds of dollars of fees. You have to have an approved tow truck or vehicle and have a license to actually go into the port in the first place to get your car. So there's heaps of hoops, as I said.
And you know what's interesting about those fees is the fees are not, other than the GST and the duty, which is like 5%, then 10%, those fees are not relative to the cost of the vehicle. So if you're bringing in a $50,000 car, for example, the space for it on a Japanese ship, whether it's $1,500 or $2,000, is the same whether it's kind of an expensive car or a cheap car. So with a car like this that costs $10,000, we're talking about like 50% extra cost to get it here. Whereas if you're buying a car that was $50,000, you might be looking at more like 10%, or 10% doesn't work, 12%, 15%, something like that. So a lot of those costs are fixed, and only a small percentage of the cost are relative to the value of the car you're bringing in.
So overall, it's not the cheapest exercise to do, but also like look at the cool kind of car that you can end up with in Australia, in this case, like what I consider a collectible classic for people like me.
We've actually got a whole video on how to buy a car from Japan and how to buy parts from Japan.
Check them out.
So check that out and it'll give you a little bit more of a look at what goes on. We actually went to the auctions in Japan, won a car at auction, then brought it back and kind of went through some of that process. So for now, Martin, your car is here.
It's here.
Happy birthday or Christmas.
Thanks,
or
man.
Whatever.
I really appreciate you arranging this.
I can't wait till you buy me a car. It's going to be great.
I don't know. So basically, the goal is to get this registered on the road, street legal, all those kind of things. Before we even go and drive it or do anything else, it's time to just service it. Because this has been, what, a year and a half?
2 years.
Almost 2 years.
2 years. Yeah.
2 years. So it's been sitting for a while, hasn't been driven much. We're going to do the basics like check the spark plugs, change them most likely, oil filter,
check
fuel
the brakes.
filter,
Yep.
See what kind of fuel's in it, check the brakes are okay. So we'll just jack it up and give it a once over. That's sort of the most important thing. There is a whole lot of extra development-y stuff I'd like to do with that crazy old vacuum system that I never felt like I actually defeated with my old car, or even this in Japan when it was playing up, because they all do. So that's something that I'll work on later. But for now, it's just, try and make it run and drive and work and go as well as it looks.
Get it ready for Rego.
Exactly.
All right, let's do it.
This car has travelled almost 9,000 kilometres by sea on a roll-on, roll-off ship. Likely surrounded by brand new Japanese cars, Grandpa Superturbo has been stewing in the same fluids for a long time, so the first thing we're going to do is replace them. While the engine is an orphan in Australia, it shares parts with other local Nissans, so luckily for us, oil filters, spark plugs and oil won't be a problem. I'm using 5W40 as it suits the age, kilometres and temperature range that this car will be operating on in our climate. And I've gone one range colder on the NGK spark plugs to help remove heat from the cylinders when I inevitably turn up the boost. The engine oil is quite black from repeated cold starts moving the car in and around the various holding yards it's been in lately.
Marty, do you get the feeling that like after this era of cars, they just all got a bit shit?
Yeah, I mean, they definitely have they have a very special feel, and I would put this in the same category as early Rexys, 180SXs, like
GTIRs?
Yeah, even MR2s to a point, you know, like there's definitely something about this era of cars that came out of Japan, like the stuff that came out of America in the late 60s was all epic, right?
Yeah.
And this stuff, I reckon, is Japan's epic. And yeah, there's others, you know, there's other periods where there's been cool stuff, but I mean, like NSX, everything was around now.
Yeah, like kind of the stuff that was designed in the late 80s but didn't come out till early 90s.
Yeah.
Just seems to be, yeah, like you say, MR2, 180,
3000 GTs, early Evos,
300 ZXs,
RS Liberties. I mean, there's a whole lot of people nodding their heads out there, and there's a lot of other people going, that's just because of your age. But we have a couple of years difference between us, and I've put this to some of my mates who are in their like early to mid 20s,
yeah,
and they agree. Like they're driving around in some of those JDM classics, and they feel the same way. So I know it's not just two old men going, it was better in the old days, but better or not, there was definitely something special.
Yes, yeah. Feels like there was a bit of heart and a bit of soul.
Yeah,
and even the ads looked like that. Like the ads are also epic, like fighter jets and cool stuff going on all the time.
This
like,
had the Danger Zone soundtrack, right?
Yeah.
Heck.
I mean, the Danger Zone soundtrack, but then this car's like logo is a cat, right? Yeah. Like, I mean, what a mad combination of things. I'm going to attempt to now go right down and get this oil filter out, which is in a very, very wacky place.
I think you got stitched up getting that job. I think
there's just so much in here.
It's coming back to me, yeah, that it's like one of the most annoying oil filters to change ever.
Why do you need to remove the engine to change the filter?
Luckily for me, the air filter is easier to get at, and it's key in unlocking the honk. We have to send this one back to Robert Import Monster, so we'll be installing a new one. Next, the intercooler can come off, and then we can get to the spark plugs.
So we got the oil filter off, which is a PIAA Z4. Now to replace it, we got a Z145A. This is kind of pretty much a standard 90s Nissan oil filter, but it doesn't fit. So Marty was just having an old, a bit of a googly Google, and you found your own forum post from when? From 2008?
2008 of the exact same problem that we're having now. So I'm guessing that it hasn't been made any easier. The problem is that this thread is a 3/4 inch 16, which is like a standard UNF, you know, whatever it stands for, fine thread, I don't know. But you'd expect a Nissan to be a metric thread, but that's not. That's a Nissan thing that fits just about everything. But there's also a 442, which is the same everything but smaller dimensions.
Right.
And that still is 63 mil, but this one is measuring 60.
And you learned that from yourself from the past.
Yeah.
From 12 years ago.
Yeah.
What are you saying there? Hi everyone, what's the right part number for the oil filter for a Super Turbo?
Yeah.
And now 12 years later we have the same question.
Same question, because I don't think there's nothing listed in Australia for this engine, because this engine is an orphan here. So, I mean, look, that's actually probably going to work just fine, but I don't know that physically, because you saw how tight it is in there, right? Do you reckon that'll even fit?
No.
Yeah. So maybe we need the smaller version, which looks like a Z442.
All right, I'll go get one of those.
Thanks, man.
So we actually have this Ryco oil filter from our 350Z project. This one here is a Z445, and this one here might actually fit. Nothing is actually listed as the correct filter for this car because they don't have them in Australia, but I'm just going to see out of interest if that screws on. And if it does, then hopefully we'll be in luck. Yet I have played Nissan oil filters before and had problems with my 94 Model 180SX because there's two different kinds of oil filters that are that fit on SR20s, and one of them doesn't fit, and I found out the hard and messy way. All right, so this Z445 oil filter feels like it fits on the back of the engine, but here's a little tip. This here is a thread identification kit. Now, if we get the 3/4 16 UNF, This here is the oil filter that was on the car before, and you'll see if I screw this one in, you'll see that it makes a really nice tight fit like this. So there's very, very little play there at all. Now, even though this one feels like it fits on the car, if I do the same thing with this, you'll see it will actually screw in, but as it goes in, this here seats against the engine block, but look at this. Look at how much play there is in there. So that there is the problem because oil is just going to come out. So what we actually need, I think, is a Z442, not a Z445. And this is an issue that a bunch of people have, particularly with engines like a SR20 that have been made over a number of years and come out in different models, S13s, S14s, S15s, and there's actually multiple oil filters that fit. So that's why sometimes forums can be handy and sometimes they're not as handy because people go, what kind of oil filter do you need for an SR20? And people will say you need this. But as you can see from this demonstration, it's not always going to fit. So this is a really cool way of checking things. These here are simply just threads like that, so you can screw things on and check them to make sure they get them right, but I'm going to go get the right filter. We can get that done. Who would have thought an oil filter would be so complex yet so exciting? Not me.
People often mistake these engines for a 3-cylinder as the intercooler sits on top of the 4th cylinder and ignition lead. The intercooler unbolts with the usual combination of 10 and 12mm nuts and bolts, so commonly found on JDM cars.
I've found the correct matching oil filter. It seems Nissan may have changed the thread on the filters of many of their engines around this time, as it's the same year model as my 180SX, where I experienced the same issue. With the filter screwed back onto its very cramped location, the engine is getting some fresh oil, and then I can move on to checking the condition of the brake pads and discs. The pads are in decent condition, so we'll leave them in until we do a brake upgrade later down the track. While things are apart, I'm going to use some WD-40 brake and parts cleaner and a plastic bristled brush to get any built up crud off the seals, which can prolong their service life.
This is the old air filter that Rob from Import Monster lent us. It's off his drift car. We made up this weird adapter when we were in Japan to make it all fit.
That's right, that's the
his.
Skyline.
That's his, and we said we give it back to him. So this actually needs to be sent back to Rob, which I'll do. I'll post it over to him. I've got a new air filter here, which is nice to put a new one on anyway. It's got a 100mm inlet. This is like some crazy 150mm drain pipe, big power thing. We don't need that. These are a nice common size. I've got the airflow meter. The problem is this is not common. Even the Skyline one was sort of just hacked on to fit. It never really worked properly and it was sort of blocking the airflow. You can't buy these. So, got to make something. How can you make something? Like this. So my friend Myles, who's a bit of a wizard with this 3D printing stuff, has made me the intake adapter. So from Superturbo plate into 100mm for the air filter. How cool is that? Literally like 1 hour after I asked him and said, hey man, and scanned it and sent it to him, that's already been 3D designed. That'll already be on the 3D printer right now being made. Welcome to the future, everybody. Hey Myles, what's up? Been doing some mad stuff. Look, man. I can't believe that this was like a scan. Can I snap it off?
Pull this off. Good.
Oh, that's right, the bendy thing. No, you do it, man. You made it. Do the honors. Yes. How cool is that? How cool is that? Oh, it's even like what do you call it when it's
What do they call it?
not chamfered. There's some techie word for it.
Yeah, the little the lip.
Yeah, that.
Yeah, rolled.
Oh, yeah, that's it. It's got a rolled lip on it so that thing doesn't... That is so cool. Dude, we're in the future, aren't we? Could you imagine 25 years ago when this car came out, if you said, one day I'll be able to put a part on a thing with a light in it, and then a few hours later your mate will make it in his garage?
Yeah.
That's sick. are going to change the spark plugs. Now, they haven't done a lot of work in terms of kilometres. I mean, they drove across Japan, which is pretty cool. But it's mostly about time and about the number of cold starts this car would have done since we've last seen it, as it's being moved on and off boats and in and around yards and stuff like that. So being that they're cheap and easy to replace, we're going to put some new NGK spark plugs in. Now, what's cool about these is the codes that they use, which sometimes seem a bit cryptic, like BCPR7ES. Seems cryptic, but actually it's a really awesome way of customizing. So for example, the plugs that we had in it are BPR6ES. And if you go to NGK's chart that explains how that works, B stands for 14mm thread size. If that's just a B by itself, it means hex 20. Usually use a 21mm socket. That also translates to the larger imperial size. Then you've got P for projector and insulator type, R for resistor type spark plug, the heat range, which in this case is a 6. And then we've got ES, and that stands for the thread reach, and then the fact it's a standard type plug. So the thread reach is how long that bit is. These plugs are a little bit tricky to get in and out of the head, as you may have noticed, because the hole where the spark plug goes is quite narrow. Getting a tool in there is tricky. So the solution is to use ones with a smaller hex on them. That's probably the easiest way to see it. The smaller hex, and you can work out exactly what plug to use by using the same chart. And so instead of using a BP, we're using a BCP. Otherwise, the plug's the same. I've also got one heat range colder. You all know why I'm doing that. And what that means is instead of having a 21mm hex size, we've got 16. So instead, we can use the smaller. 16 is about a 5/8 in the old language, which means the tool that actually goes in is a lot smaller and a lot easier to get in and out of the thing. Thread reach the same. Resistor type the same, everything else the same, just the different hex size makes it heaps easier to service your car.
So this little Nissan Super Turbo has done exactly 99,721 kilometres. So I'm going to round that up to 100,000 kilometres. Now the question is, how much human slime and grot gets collected in a seat over 100,000 kilometres? Right now, my friends, we're going to find out. This section's where the actual butthole is.
Look how good they're coming up.
All right, so people, I hope this little demonstration has given you enough reason to go and clean your seats. Now you can get one of these little things, get them online, or you can get a rug doctor. We've done a whole episode of that, but that is in your car. That is under you all the time.
What do you reckon it tastes like?
We will never know, Martin, because that is disgusting. This car was so clean.
You should drink it.
Dude, I'm not. Don't.
Come on, man. You're the guy that licks the cars and eats the archaeology stuff. You should drink it.
Dude, that's 30 years. That's right under where the butthole is.
How will people ever know if you don't take one for the team and do it?
I'm not taking. You drink it. If you want to know what it tastes like, you drink it.
I will drink it.
No, don't drink it, man.
I'll drink it.
It'll make you
No, if you're not going to do it, I'll do it.
No, don't.
Here.
What, is it for science, is it?
It's for science.
Dude.
I'll tell you exactly what
Yeah,
it's
cool.
Oh my God,
Go
it looks
drink
so
it,
good.
man.
Oh, that growth.
You absolute dickhead.
Oh my God.
Upper engine cleaner will help burn off any carbon deposits sitting around the top of the motor. Despite the logo on the label, this stuff works well on Nissans too. Meanwhile, the passenger seat is getting the same wet down and suck up treatment, resulting in some more tasty human slime.
As we've said before, seats are like tea bags that work in reverse. If you want to learn more about that, there's a link down below.
This cleaning method does leave your interior pretty damp, and it's a good idea to not let it stay that way. So either park the car in the sun with the doors open, or alternatively, get some air moving with a fan.
Hey Marty,
Yeah.
you don't drink coffee.
No.
I don't drink coffee. But
Yeah.
there is a coffee cup in here from Hibi Cafe in Japan.
But that wasn't us,
No.
because we dropped it at the docks.
Yes. So whoever drove it from the dock onto the boat
Left their coffee cup in.
left their coffee cup in there.
Is that kind of cheeky, or do you reckon they do that as like a... Like, do you reckon they do it for fun? Because, I mean, if I worked in the docks, quarantine stuff aside, I would probably be like, I'm going to leave some Vegemite in there and be like, hey, bro, check
guess
this
so.
out.
I mean, the fact that it's got Japanese characters on it makes it feel kind of special. Do you know what I mean? But
Yeah,
it's
I guess.
actually just someone's festy coffee cup.
It is. Someone lit it in the car,
Do you want it for
basically.
good luck? Like,
No.
should we glue it like right in the middle of the
Oh,
steering
you could
wheel
put
or
it up
something?
on the back there of the Wall of Fame.
Yeah, let's put it over there.
Yeah.
Let's just let it live on. I'll put it right there, next to all our other special things. There it is,
Nice.
the Super Turbo coffee cup.
Everyone will always know.
Did you get a poster yet? Because these are limited and signed. Once they're gone, people. Now is your chance. It actually looks way better under here than I expected for a car that's been rolling on Japanese roads for that long.
Yeah, that's it. And also because the outside's been painted, it's also easy to go like what's hiding under there.
Yeah.
But this is reasonably good considering this is an stock exhaust. I mean, that's not going to last long on this car. We all know that. And there's like a little bit of, rusty, scaly stuff on here, but no major rust holes and not too much to worry about, really.
And not too much damage either. Like I expected to see on the fuel tank, maybe it's hit something. Like think about like when you 180s, even the 350, like the fuel tank, like that caused a major problem for us. That the fuel tank actually had this big hump in it, caused us fuel starvation issues.
Yep.
There's a couple of holes in the exhaust, like here.
Unsurprising if that's factory, hey.
But I really like the two little twin like pea shooters.
Yeah.
I reckon like if this gets replaced, I reckon we should cut them and keep them there,
Keep it.
looking legit.
Yep.
But it looks really good.
No, pretty good, man. Really, there's not much to do under here. I mean, I'd like to put some new shocks in it because you can still get them. You can get like KYBs for them and throw them in. So I think some new shocks. I don't know that it needs to be much lower. I'm pretty happy with how it sits and how it rides. And yeah, maybe explore some new tyres now that we have more options locally. Because remember, these were the only ones we could get.
That's right.
But I reckon we'll be able to get some nice ones on there.
And it doesn't have to be low just because cars are meant to be low. I think that's one of the things we see on the internet a lot. People are like, next up, make sure you put coilovers in. Why? Why? And I've kind of been saying for a long time making this show, you've got to drive the car and see what it needs. Like putting something in because someone told you to put it in is not a good reason to do any modification at all. Spend some time with it and go, you know what, it rides fine. Or no, it doesn't ride fine, and fix things as you need to, not just following the recipe.
And this is such a nuggety looking thing anyway that it's like you can slam it, and when you've got like a slam nugget, it's still nugget. It still has the awesome nugget factor anyway, so it doesn't really need to be mad low. But yeah, man, there's nothing really to do under here. I mean, this is going to get replaced 100%.
Yeah.
Just because it's rusty and old. But everything else looks pretty good.
You've already got the mirror, which is kind of slam-tastic.
Yeah.
It's got the big flares and got whatever. It would be, look, it's up to you. I bought this car for you, so now it's yours to do whatever you want with. But it'd be kind of cool just to keep it period-specific legit. Like, make it more of a resto than like fully modify it and go crazy.
Tasteful mods. I want to like modernise stuff that it just works better.
Yeah,
now
and
that
make
we
it
have the tech.
drivable.
Make it drivable.
every
Like
day.
I'd consider a more modern turbo, but still put it in the same spot and everything, and still keep the supercharger, of course.
Yep.
I think that'd be pretty rad.
It is hard to resist the temptation to keep pulling this engine bay to bits, but that means entering the wormhole of rare parts, quirky old car issues, and end up with a car that doesn't move anywhere. Before I go down that road, we need to take it for a drive. It feels like only yesterday we were rolling in the streets of Japan. Australia may look completely different, but I can't wait to hit some roads on this side of the globe with the same mad little honking beast. I reckon the engineers who invented this thing in the 80s really believed they were onto something as high-tech as an electric car of today. Small capacity with forced induction, a limited slip diff and electronically controlled injection was pretty cutting edge for a car available to the public. It's often a car's quirks that make them memorable. It may not be a burnout monster, but the feeling you get driving one of these weird little cars really is exhilaration.
doesn't sound as honky.
It's not as quite as honky. Probably that intake's like a bit better now.
Yes.
Still there. Still got that mad little dose, doesn't it?
Yes.
Love it.
I can't
Love
believe a car that's 1 litre is so fast. I keep saying it, but this was before people were trying to make stuff like, 2 litre Golf engines as efficient as possible.
Yeah.
This is big for K-car standards.
And this is fairly high boost for its age, and also like the quality of the fuel. It's old, man.
Yeah.
It's an old car, but it's actually like how much more performance do you need for just getting around and having some fun?
We're cruising around having a great time.
Getting in the danger zone and stuff. But yeah, we are down at Sydney Dragway's car park, cruising around. There's no one here. It's deserted for the moment, but that's a good thing because this car is unregistered still.
It's really good.
It's good, isn't it?
It's so linear.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that was one of their ideals when going, look, we'll supercharge the lag
Yeah. Yeah.
and then bring a turbo in, and then you just get a nice smooth power curve all the way through.
It's like, oh look, we got a bit of problem with lag on this little tiny engine, so let's just strap a supercharger to the side of it.
So good.
But it is, I mean, look, the obvious thing that it's very weird, the feeling of having driven this past Mount Fuji, well, to the base of Mount Fuji and then through the Hakone skyline and all those awesome places.
And now we're driving it past Mount Druitt.
Here we are. We legitimately are driving past Mount Druitt. Oh, it feels good.
Feels
Stops
amazing.
good, steers nicely, tyres still feel good. It's awesome, man. Mad little nugget.
What's the claimed 0 to 100 of this car?
I believe it's in the 7s.
Okay,
I can't remember exactly, 7 point something.
let's see how we go. Are you ready?
Yep.
3, 2, 1, go! Yeah, a little bit of wheel spin. Oh, it's fast!
That's 100.
7.7.
Yeah, man.
We haven't lost many ponies.
That feels good. I mean, look, second gear's a bit more crunchy probably than it was when
It's a
it was new.
Nissan.
It's a
so
Nissan.
people are used to just smashing first to second. Wow, 7.7. That's amazing.
It's pretty good. That also tells us that the turbo and supercharger are they're working.
They're working as they're meant to.
Yeah.
Because there's no mods on this.
No, this factory exhaust and everything. Well, it's got an air filter. That's it.
But as we know, they don't do a whole lot, do they? I mean, that it's doing the same as its claimed 0 to 100 all these years later is actually incredible.
Yeah. It's really nice to start with a car that's already good.
Yes.
Like it's
Not like us, really, is it?
Well, no, and it's of a similar era of some of the cars that we've been working on lately, like the MR2s and the GTRs and all that kind of stuff. But it's nice to be working on something that's just a bit cleaner.
Yeah.
That's had a bit more love.
Amazing. Well, there it is, Martin. The Super Turbo is here. It's in Australia. We're honking. We're zapping.
It's just the
We're
beginning.
canoodling.
Beginning of the honk.
If you haven't yet seen the whole adventure of us buying and picking up this car, make sure you check out Super Turbos and Temples 2. You can check that out on the YouTubes or maybe even Discovery Channel all around the planet.
Yeah.
So check that out. Thank you, everyone. We're going to honk
our way.
ourselves off into the sunset.
Honk into the distance. I'll never get sick of that noise.
Well done, Martin. Well done, Martin.
You should drive it.
Well done, Martin.
Why? Oh,
Well done, Martin.
I was leaving you hanging. I was too focused on the road.